This is the first of two parts to the annual school meeting. I should have brought my sunglasses. This is the first of two parts of the annual school meeting, and today is referred to as the deliberative session. In March 8th to be precise, there will be voting at your town polling places, and you will be given ballots that appear very similar to the warrant for today's meeting, which I presume everyone has a copy of. It is then that you will actually vote yes or no on each of the questions, but there is no opportunity at that time to talk about the articles or get questions answered or whatever. Our primary purpose today is to explain, discuss, and debate the articles that appear on the 2016 warrant for this meeting. If any amendments are proposed, we will vote on whether or not they will appear on the ballot. We would not actually change the warrant articles that are on the warrant for today. After the meeting today, we will presumably be in a better position to vote appropriately in March. You probably already realize that this meeting has more limited powers than the standard town meeting format, the one still used by all of the 7 individual towns in the district. Regardless of what we do today, all of the articles on the warrant that we are discussing today will appear on the official ballot in March, and they will be worded precisely the same way. Proposed amendments are a little different. If an amendment is proposed and you pass it, the amended article will also appear on the ballot in March. It won't actually replace the original, it will just appear alongside the original. So if one passes at this meeting, it doesn't really amend the original article, it just means that there will be 2 articles on the official ballot in March instead of 1. And at that time, of course, you'd be given the choice of one or the other, not both. The rules for the meeting are the same as always. I use Robert's rules as a basis, but within reason feel that it is appropriate to interpret them somewhat flexibly. We'll start the discussion of each of the 5 articles with an explanation by a school board member or a municipal budget committee member. I will read each article first, and then the board members will provide some background. After that, I will open the floor to questions and comments. If you wish to speak, please go to the nearest microphone. When I've called on you, please give your name and the town that you are from. That will make it easier to record the minutes of our meeting accurately and, of course, assure your place in history. Article 1, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the Municipal Budget Committee's recommended amount of $40,896,661 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for the school district officials and agents, and for the payment for the statutory obligations of the district. The school board recommends $40,896,661 as well. This article does not include appropriations voted in other warrant articles. This warrant article asks the voters to raise and appropriate for the support of schools, the salaries of school district officials and agents, and for the statutory obligations of said district, and to authorize the application against said appropriation of such sums as are estimated to be received from the state sources together with other income. The school board to certify to the selectmen of each of the towns of Bradford, New London, Newbury, Springfield, Sutton, Warner, and Wilmot the amount to be raised by taxation by said towns. This is recommended by the school board 8-0 and by the municipal budget committee 8-1. Who will be speaking on behalf of the board? Emilio? Okay.
The operating budget proposed by the school, Kearsarge Regional School Board of $40 million is an increase of approximately $826,000 or 2.06% from the 16 budget. The areas of increase are the result of a variety of factors. Number 1, salaries, wages, and benefits. Salaries and wages are up $81,238. Health benefits increased $449,260, which is about 10.19% from the 15-16 budget. Additional benefits, dental insurance, retirement, long-term disability and federal taxes, workshops and TCA associated with these, and other positions amount to an increase of about $56,475. This wage line reflects a net reduction of 2 full-time para-educators and 1 classroom teaching position through attrition. Number two, out-of-district. Out-of-district costs for 16-17 school year are estimated to be a reduction of about $23,359 or 1.58%. Each year, the district special education costs are very fluid and driven by a variety of factors, and these include the ability of our local staff to meet the needs of intensive behaviorally and medically challenged students, unanticipated costs from families who move into the district, and other costs associated with delivering highly specialized services in environments outside of the district. We make every effort to meet each child's needs in the least restrictive educational environment here at the local level. In addition, federal law also requires us to provide those needs until the age of 21. Placement for out-of-district services can range from $50,000 to about $300,000, depending on educational and residential requirements. Number three, utilities, bonds, property insurance. These represent an increase of 1.02% or $31,572. Number four, transportation. That represents $34,264 or 1.21%. Included in this or not included in this is the possibility that we may, because of a recent negotiation, be able to save between $80,000 and $90,000 in fuel costs. Hopefully this will be realized very quickly. Number five, other operating costs, which includes textbooks, technology, contracted services, supplies, repairs, replacement equipment, and so on. These costs currently reflect a 4.58% increase, or $176,377 from the 15-16 budget. Although each cost center brings its own nuances for areas of increase and decrease, generally in the 2016 and 17 budget, as a district composite, you will find the following reductions: maintenance, electrical, school board contracted services, capital improvements, postage, high school accreditation, assessment lines. Those are the decreases. The increases are books, supplies, equipment, vocational education, athletic trainer, school furniture, increased support for the Washington, D.C. trip. Number five, food services. That represents a reduction of $19,150 or 2.67%. And the last one is the federal funds, which represents an increase of $39,306 or a 5.12% of the budget. It's important to note that all federal dollars appropriated are offset by matching funds, so this results in no effect to our local taxes. Are there any questions?
I will now open it up for questions, comments. Sir.
Thank you. My name is Tom Paul. I live in the town of Sutton, and I would like to make an amendment to Article 1 to be voted on by the town at the March ballot. This would read, Article 1, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $40,070,678 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for the school district officials and agents, and for the payment for the statutory obligations of the district. The Municipal Budget Committee and School Board recommends $40,896,661. This article does not include appropriations voted in other warrant articles. This warrant article asks the voters to raise and appropriate for the support of schools, the salaries of school district officials and agents, and for the statutory obligations of said district, and to authorize the application against said appropriation of such sums as are estimated to be received from the state sources, together with other income. The school board to certify to the selectmen of each of the towns of Bradford, New London, Newbury, Springfield, Sutton, Warner, and Wilmot, the amount to be raised by taxation of said town.
I missed the number that...
Certainly, I will repeat that for you.
40 million?
$40,070,678. And For everyone's information, that was the sum voted on by the voters last March for your school budget. And I have a copy here in writing if you would like.
Okay, and is it fair to say that the proposed amendment that you're making is identical to Article 1 on the warrant, except for that number?
Except for that number, and I've changed the wording relative to the municipal and school board recommendations. I read it, the Municipal Budget Committee and School Board recommends $40,896,661.
Okay, all right. And you have that in writing?
I have that in writing, sir.
Okay, if you could give that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Rack it out. I'll make a comment.
Is there a second to this proposal? Okay, seconded by Mr. Forsberg. And
I think it has to be either the budget committee or the school board's amount that has to be modified. It's just one, not the both. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
It has to be either the school board amount or the budget committee amount that has to be modified, but not both. Is that correct?
I don't believe that is correct. He's made a proposal for what is essentially a substitute Article 1 on the warrant, and it just does not include a recommendation by the school board, which didn't recommend it, or the municipal budget committee, which also didn't recommend it. It's just his proposal, which you've seconded. But it doesn't have to,
This might have to be an amendment. I'm not sure. It has to be a clarification. Maybe Barbara can solve that one.
Well, I thought I answered your question. Maybe I'm not clear on that. Do you want to explain more why you think that?
It's my understanding that this is an amendment to the original article, even though it is a replacement. So the question now before the voters and before the school board and the authorities here are we amending school board number or are we amending the budget committee number? I don't think we can do both at the same time.
We're actually
I'm
not doing either. We are, I perhaps wasn't clear in my opening remarks, but the point here is that the article that you have on your warrant there that calls for $40,896,000 will appear in March, regardless of what we do today.
Okay.
However,
We can modify or amend both of them at the same time. I guess that's an authority we can do.
well, what Mr. Hall has proposed is a new Article 1 that will appear, he wants it to appear on the ballot alongside the one that calls for $1 million.
Okay, in other words, there'll be two articles, Article 1 be Article 1A and 1B or something like that.
Something like that, right. Okay. Did you want to speak?
I did. Thanks. Ken Bartholomew. I'm the new school board chair. I just want to make a couple comments, and then I'll address this. First of all, you may have a handout that was given out on your way in today. I just wanted to make it clear that this is not generated by the school board or the municipal budget committee. It was done by an individual taxpayer, I believe. It also, in checking some of the numbers, Mr. LaBeouf, our business administrator, noted that the listed tax rate for Warner is actually the 2014 tax rate, not the 2015 tax rate as indicated. According to the website, the school tax rate for 2015 for Warner was $12.46, not $12.72, and for the state it was $2.16, not $2.27. So I wanted to make that clear. I also wanted to mention Allison Maston from Wilmot is here today, but she's ill, so she's elsewhere in the building, and I just wanted to mention that because otherwise there'd be you see an empty seat there, and it's not really fair to her. Then I wanted to address this amendment. Okay, so she has left now. Good. Take care of herself. I want to address this amendment in one respect. We have a contract with the para-educators in the district. It calls for an increase in the budget for wages and health care and associated benefits of about $150,000. I don't have the number exactly, but it's between $100,000 and $200,000. So that is an obligation that the voters of this district approved when the voters approved the para professional contract. And for that reason, I think it's inappropriate to reduce the budget by at least an amount, by more than an amount, but by certainly an amount that was already approved by the voters when they approved the para-educators contract. So I wanted to make that point.
Any other questions or comments regarding the proposed amended article? I can understand the confusion in referring to an amended article when we're not really amending the article. We're offering a substitute. Madam.
I'm Joanna Murphy. I live in Sutton, and I just want to make a comment. Okay, so I've always been a big supporter of the schools all my voting career life. And I want to make a comment about my concern, and I'm expressing this with other people as well, for other people as well, is that, boy, you know, property taxes keep going up, up, up. And some of us, our incomes are not increasing, or they're decreasing. And I feel like a lot of us are in a quandary here. We want to be supportive of the school. We have kids that are in the school system. And we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And I think until our state actually does something about funding education and not doing this through property tax, until that happens, here we are, and trying to decide, you know, can we keep sustaining these increases? And so I just feel like I don't, you know, I'm bummed out that I feel like I have to be put in this position as a taxpayer to decide. And I'm just hoping that the school board and the towns, all the towns, can come up with a good solution here. I would hate to see that money being taken away from the school, and then the next thing you know, kids aren't having art, or kids aren't having music, or all the things that they need to have a good education. So I hope that if this second, not an amendment, but whatever you want to call it, if it does get approved and people have a choice, that we really understand what's going to be cut here, okay? I really would like the school board or somebody to really say who's going to be affected and where the money's going to be taken away from, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
7 years ago was my first meeting on the school board, was to cut $500,000 from the budget, which was the NBC number. And that was done by cutting into the largest part of our budget, which you can see on the chart is by far and large are the people that we employ. Education is primarily in this district labor costs. We pay the teachers and the paraprofessionals and the staff of our schools that come to work every day, and that's the vast majority of our budget. That is likely where costs would have to be cut, and I can only go by the last time that we had to make a major cut, which was my first meeting that I attended as a school board member, where we had to cut $500,000, and we did it by eliminating I think it was 8 or 9 positions in the middle school and the high school. And I suspect that we'll have to do that again if we have to cut somewhere around whatever it is, $800,000 from the budget. I agree with the sentiment that was just expressed. It's very frustrating for both the school board and the municipal budget committee year after year to see costs increase. Largely, the reason for that are costs being downshifted from the state to the localities. A few years ago, we paid a portion of the retirement savings. I think it was 55%. Now we pay 100% of that. The state doesn't take up any of that. Now, there have been some modifications to the retirement system that were supposed to reduce our burden, but ultimately, when you're going from paying 55% of a cost to 100% of the cost, you end up having to pass that money along, and the only way we have to do that in this district is through the property tax. Same goes for catastrophic aid. School building aid, we may never get school building aid from the state in this district again. We were very fortunate to have built the middle school before the state clamped down on its building aid, and also do the energy savings bond, which also qualified for state building aid. This auditorium that you're in now was not funded through state building aid. The state gave us nothing for this. This was all done through tax money, mainly through money that was saved in the budget from prior years, or money that was taken from part of the capital improvement budget by not doing other things. So pretty much one of the only major projects that we had in the district this school year was this auditorium. So I share that frustration. It's very difficult to deal with both as a board and a municipal budget committee because we just see the revenue and the revenue going down and the costs increasing. The non-tax revenue going down and the costs increasing, and it's difficult to manage. We have reduced staff primarily through attrition as the enrollment has dropped. I think we've seen the bottom of that, and the current projections are for enrollment to increase, not as much as it's gone down in the last 7 or 8 years, but we've seen an increase this year from last year, and we expect to see some enrollment increases going forward. So one of the things that we were able to do, for example, was increase kindergarten to full-day kindergarten at a relatively minimal cost of about $100,000 in the budget. So we're trying to provide more services. We were able to do that because of decreased enrollment allowed us to free up some classrooms. So we didn't have to build any new classrooms to increase to full-time kindergarten. So we're always trying to look for those ways in which to provide extra services to the children of the district without having to increase the budget by large amounts. So I guess that's all I can say about that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am. If you could come to the microphone.
Hi, thank you everyone on the school board for your service. I'm Amy Heistrom, and I'm a Sutton resident as well. Most of you from Sutton wouldn't know me because I've never attended a school board meeting before. I've never felt the need to. This is emotional for me because I love Sutton and I love the school there. But my taxes have gone up $1,400 for those of you who don't live in Sutton. In 2 years, I can't afford it. And I have the ability to make more income, and I'm doing that. I have a second job. I'm speaking as a speech and language pathologist in a school district, working with high special needs kids, keeping those kids in district for a different district that's nearby. For 20 years, I've done this. There have got to be more creative ways to save some money or make some more money. If nobody's looked at the Medicaid to Schools program, I would encourage you to do that. There's money there. Bring it in. Help your therapists figure out how to bring more money in that way. Out-of-district placements. There's ways to keep those kids in district. Kids placed out of district have the same credentialed people as therapists in your district. We have the same licensees. I could work in any of those places. I've been to some of those places. They're not better. We could bring some of those kids in. I don't know them. I'm not on those teams. Obviously, that's all confidential. But having worked on teams like that for 20 years, we need to get creative about how to get those kids in and keep that money. I have to vote this budget down for the first time ever in my life, and that kills me because I don't know where this is going. If there was a way for someone to say, this is what's going to happen to your household taxes in 5 years, in 2 years, it might be a little easier to take if I knew this was just a one-time thing. I don't know that. Sutton residents don't know that. We're scared. We don't know how to come up with this money. We want to. I'm a huge supporter of the schools, and I can't believe that I'm in this position right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, yes, sir. Well, I called on this gentleman in the back.
I'm Jack McCarthy. I live in North Sutton. Do the teachers participate, teachers and staff participate in the cost of health care? And if so, by what percent?
Depending on the plan that they choose, it's either 15 or 20% in the current contract. There's a change in the proposed new contract that that's warrant Article 2. I'll speak to that when we get to that article.
Thank you.
I'll say one other thing as well. I just wanted to address the special ed comment that was just made. We do try very hard to bring out-of-district placements back into the district, and we spend money trying to make small modifications to our programs and our facilities that would allow that to occur. At the end of the school year 2 years ago, we approved some modifications at the high school, adding, for example, a shower and some other renovations that would allow us to bring children in district. And we've done that, and it resulted in a large budget savings. Most of our budget savings that we've seen in the last 5 to 6 years have been based on reduction in out-of-district special ed costs. We've had a few move-ins this year that have not allowed us to do a great budget savings thus far in the current school year, but it is, we are still keeping a budget with regard to that. Another thing that we've done is we've instituted a program where we're having students come in to a program at Simon's School from all the schools in the district that need to have alternative classroom experience, and by doing that we're able to keep them in district. That's because we had an extra room available at Simon's, and it would save money to, even though we're doing some busing there from, for kids in other towns, it still saves money compared to having out-of-district placements. So it's something we're always looking at. We've actually been quite successful in bringing children in from out-of-district to in-district placement, but sometimes, frankly, there are situations where there's really very little you can do, and you have to place the child out of district. And that may be just because the parents move into the district with an already out-of-district placed student. That's just the way the law works. It's where the residence is of the child based on where the parents live. And if that happens, it's an unanticipated cost, and that's always why there's sometimes great variability in that budget line. But it's something we're always looking at. I'm going to add something.
Yeah, just to address the special education and the Medicaid question that was brought up. As a former special education director, I'm acutely aware of all the costs and also the ability to get reimbursement back from the various agencies, either the state or the federal grants. We are maximizing our Medicaid billing, which means all the services that are eligible for Medicaid reimbursement, we are submitting and recouping money for the district from any available source, be that transportation, be that speech and language, be that PT or occupational therapy services or counseling. So we are very aware. Our special ed department dedicates considerable effort to that and really squeeze every dollar out of that. Tremendous paperwork necessary, but that's well worth it, so to bring money back into the district. And if you look at the handout, the out-of-district special ed tuition, the fact that it goes negative, that it is a reduction, speaks to the efforts of the special ed department to really reduce these expensive out-of-district placements, because it's not just tuition that we have to pay, it's also transportation that we have to pay, and oftentimes transportation is almost as expensive as the tuition for a placement that we cannot accommodate here. There's a tremendous effort here from my short tenure so far to see that really a variety of programs are in each of the schools or centralized district-wide to address exactly those issues. My top priority is to keep all our students in district if at all possible. So you have my commitment to that, and I think the special education director shares that as well.
Thank you. I believe you were next, and then Mr. Hand.
John Solberg of Sutton. In referring to this handout that we were given, which wasn't provided by the school board, there's a couple of things that are obvious to me. Number one, New London and Newbury have lower school tax rates simply because they have a lot of very expensive lake properties at which they're able to tax, and it boosts their taxable rate lower, but that's one thing. Number two is some of these towns have populations which don't produce children for the school system. For instance, New London has a huge number of retirees in their population. I don't know about Newbury, but I know New London has a large number of those retiree settlements. So what happens is that we have a consolidated school district, which was set up many years ago, a consolidated school budget, but we don't have consolidated taxation. What we have is individual taxation for towns. So what we need to do is set up a consolidated taxation system which doesn't slant so much to the number of students, but to the wealth of the town, which is the way the whole school taxation system is set up for the state of New Hampshire. That's my comment.
Thank you.
I'll speak to that.
Okay.
Just for informational purposes, the breakdown right now is it's a 60-40 split, so 60% based on population, 40% based on assessed value, is it? To change that would require a modification of the charter for the school district, which takes a 60% vote and a petition to get it started. So just that's for people's information. I hear people talk about, is it fair the way that the tax burden is distributed amongst the towns? That was a decision that was made back when the charter was started and then amended over the years. And that's the process that it would need to go through. It cannot go through the regular district budgeting process, though.
Thank you. Mr. Hand?
Thank you. This has been very interesting, and I appreciate everybody coming here today and talking about the concerns that they have. The NBC in this past session that we had considered some of the things that have already been mentioned here, and it was the feeling at the time that it would be hard for us to, make that work because they were such small amounts. For instance, as somebody's already mentioned, the teaching of music and, recreation and that sort of thing. What we found out when we requested a study of the co-curricular activities of the high school and middle school, that the school system has spends quite a large amount of money on those particular things, just for the coaches. $265,000. That's the highest in the state. Are we the biggest school in the state? No, we're not. But at the same time, we could say, all right, let's cut all that out. The next thing you have to answer is, well, whose ox are we going to gore here? Which sports should take precedent, which should not? That's not an easy question to answer. So you almost have to go and say, well, how much activity is each one generating? And then you get into, and no one is going to be happy with the result. Cutting the school budget is not something that's very easy to do. Another instance of something that we've toyed with for the last 3 years is the Washington, D.C. trip for the 8th grade. How much should be coming out of the taxpayer's dollar to support this? We're talking about one grade here. Now, in the past, the 8th grade at the middle school has done a lot of fundraising things to help them along. But this year, we decided to kick in, a little bit more out of the taxpayer's pocket. Not a great deal, I believe it was something like $30,000. But, if you do that, are we getting a better budget out of this? Well, that's a pretty hard question to answer. And it becomes very personal as to what you think. But when you see your tax bill, and I know it was very, very difficult for that young lady to come up here and, as much as she loves the school, there's no way she can support this because, things have really gotten a little bit too much. The town of Warner, which I represent, has over 800 people on temporary assistance for needy families. That's a town of 2,800 people. And so when we do these things, it's uncomfortable. I happen to be an 8-year veteran of the board, and the first time I came in here, of course, the entire economy of the United States tanked rather ungracefully, and it's at an awful time untanking, okay? So we're not doing too well in that regard. And so it's every year we have to look at these things and try to weigh them, which is why this year I decided we really looked hard at the school budget, the school contract that's coming up, and I'll say more about that when we get to Article 2. But I just want to let people know that this is the problems of the district and income are not foreign to any of us.
Thank you. Just as a reminder so that we know what we're doing right now, what we're doing is talking really about both Article 1 as it appears on the warrant and the proposed amendment. It didn't seem sensible to me to try to discuss only the proposed amended article and then vote on that and then go back to the article that appears on your warrant. Nevertheless, we will, at some point, we will have a vote on the amended article that Mr. Hall presented to us, and that will pass or not pass, and then we will have then we do not have to have a vote on the article that the School Board and Municipal Budget Committee have proposed, because that is not something that we get to do here. So I hope that's all clear, because it took me, I think, 17 years to understand it, and I'm not sure that I always have to refresh my memory every January. So hopefully people understand what we're doing now, and we can proceed. So is there any more discussion? Sir, that's the answer to my question.
My name is Bill Balsam, and I'm a resident of Warner. I'm a retired professor of geology, University of Texas. And I really appreciate the job that the school board is trying to do for our students. I think it's really admirable that you're providing all of these extra programs. And as Jim Hand said, it's a tough job trying to cut budgets. But in light of decreasing enrollments, decreasing staff, will there ever be another time to hold spending steady? If you can't do it now, you'll never be able to do it, and the citizens are finding it very difficult to keep up with the tax increases. So I think you need to make a significant effort to hold spending down, and now seems to be the best time to do it, with both students at least holding steady and staff being decreased. There'll never be a better time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Ma'am.
Hi, I'm Heidi Thoma from Sutton. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for being here. A couple of things that have come up that I wrote down, and one is the name of this meeting being the deliberative session. And it's interesting because you guys have been deliberating this, and I've watched you and participated a little bit over the last year. And as soon as they finish this year, they'll start again for next year. But because this is called the deliberative session, this is where everyone shows up. So this is where people voice their opinion, which is what they're supposed to do. But the charter got mentioned as well, and I don't know if there's some way to change that to say, I know everybody wants everyone to come earlier, but because of the name of this is where people show up. So how do we get people involved earlier to bring their motions to the table? Is there a way to do this before the numbers are finalized? And I know that you guys want everyone to come to the meetings, but no one does. So that's just me saying, this frustrates me every year that I come to the table and I come to the meetings and I say what I have to say, but then it's not until now when it's practically finished that other people voice their opinion. So that's sort of frustrating. And the charter, and is there any way we can adjust that? I don't know how. And then the second thing is state legislators, and just please, everyone's saying that the state is cutting their funding to the schools, and one way to affect that is to please, 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 please talk to your state legislators. I see one here. Thank you for coming. And that's it.
Thank you.
One thing.
Okay.
Once in a while, we do get lots of people at our meetings. The last time I remember a lot of people at the meeting as it related to a budget item issue was when we talked about consolidating the elementary schools by potentially closing a school, and those are things that we look at. We insisted as a board that the administration work with us to provide us with a cost estimate for doing that, and ultimately it was the decision of the board that the benefits of doing that in terms of savings were not worth the difficulty that we would put the district and the towns through by consolidating the schools yet again and eliminating one of the schools. So we really do try to look at almost every issue that we can think of, and if anybody here or as you go forward has any ideas, please pass that on to your school board member, your municipal budget committee member, or administration, and it's something that we're going to look at and consider. That's how the energy savings bond that we did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, wow, time flies, happened. We realized that instead of replacing large items like rooftop air units, as they needed replacement and as they aged, we could do it all at once through an energy energy use improvement project and get state building aid for it, as well as federal grant and guaranteed savings. So that if we didn't see the savings that we expected from the work that we did in fuel costs, we would get paid by the contractor who did it, which was Honeywell. So those are the kind of things that we look at. That was a very creative way of trying to save money. Another very creative way of trying to save money that happened about 4 years ago was a revamping of our technology plan and the way we purchase technology in the district. The technology director, Larry Schwab, came to us and said, you know, instead of replacing the equipment that you have, we should take a look at what uses are required. You know, in a course like, say, digital photography, you need some kind of computers that can handle those programs. And when those become obsolete, you need to replace them. But in a class like a history class, what the students need in terms of technology is just to access the internet. And you can do that a whole lot cheaper than with a laptop computer or a desktop computer. And in order to save money and catch up with our technology plan that we had fallen behind on, what was proposed and what we passed was a modification that allowed us to repurchase technology, not based on replacing old equipment, but actually taking a look at what we needed and what the students needed, and we ended up saving a lot of money with regard to that and put some of that money into increasing the bandwidth at especially the high school, which became the bottleneck after that. So these are things that we are looking at, but again, if anyone has any other ideas, the crazier the better sometimes. We're always happy to look at those things.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, ma'am. Oh, well, recognize this lady, and then you'll be next.
My name is Renata Candler. I'm from New London. I just would like to know what have you budgeted for the Washington, D.C. trip? Thank you.
It's 50%. Yeah, so in the current year, the district provides 25% of the cost for the Washington DC trip, which is an 8th grade trip to Washington. And next, in the coming year's proposed budget, it's 50%. And that's an addition of about $30,000. So the total amount is about $60,000 that we provide, and the parents pay the rest, which is another $60,000 amongst all the, split up between the children who are going. There is fundraising that also occurs to allow students to apply for scholarships or their families to apply for scholarships, so that hopefully no one who has a desire to go is left behind and is unable to attend. But even with the 25% contribution by the district, we've seen an increase in the number of students who are able to go. The board felt that that was a trip that is largely associated with the curriculum, and it's important to the curriculum that's being taught in the middle school, and therefore there should be some contribution by the district as to the cost.
Thank you. Yes.
To follow up on what Heidi said, I would like,
Yep.
I would like to point out that all the board meetings are open to the public. They're all posted. They're regularly scheduled with some exceptions, and all citizens are entitled to comment and obviously observe in more detail how we struggle to balance out the value of the educational items with the cost to the taxpayers, and participation is welcomed.
Thank you. Anything else on Article 1? Mr. Forsberg.
When Mr. Bartholomew spoke to the ADM and evaluation formula, he was referring to the cooperative school agreement of 66 or 67, not the charter. I say that because a lot of people think we're a Senate Bill 2 structure, and we're not. In regard to this Article 1 that we're talking about, this amended Article 1, I didn't follow every word that Mr. Paul spoke, but the original article speaks of a recommended. The word recommended is included there. Did he delete that word in his proposed additional article?
Yes, he did.
Okay. My problem with what I see now and what I can remember of the charter, I don't have it in front of me. I'm a little concerned that if we did approve an Article 1A or whatever, that it would not conform to the charter as it is written. I would like a statement from the school district attorney that if it is approved, it will go before the voters as it was proposed by Mr. Paul, Tom Paul. A couple other comments here.
Well, let's get an answer to that one first, and then.
All right.
Under the charter, the wording does not change. Instead, the operating budget appears on the ballot it would appear with two figures, one being the school board and budget committee figure, because they are the same, and the other being the amended figure. So the only thing that changes is the figure. There certainly will not be anything indicating that the school board and the budget committee have approved the amended figure.
Okay, my memory of the charter is that it has an A choice, a B choice, and a C choice.
That's correct.
So what you would have is A for the school board, B for the budget committee, and C for a citizen petition here, which you can call it that, I guess.
When the school board and budget committee figure are the same, that's usually the only one that goes in.
Say that again.
I believe when the school board and the budget committee figures are the same, that goes on the ballot as a single figure.
It is a single figure, but it's choice A or B, and that's what the
No,
voters are
don't
stuck
think
with.
so.
That's correct.
Okay, you're correct.
Yes,
You're
I
correct.
know.
Okay.
All right, so there's going to be an A and a B and a C choice if this is approved.
That's correct. But the only difference will be in the figures.
Okay, I think I understand it now. I think that's clarification. Just as a couple of other points, comment was made back, I think it was 2008 budget, that we approved the budget committee number that year, which was down about $850,000, as I recall. That was also a year where the school district had approved, the school board rather, had approved a 6.5% increase from prior voting to the staff. That did not change. They got their 6.5% and some positions were eliminated. Now, since that time, there has been a reduction in staff. There's also been over 300 reduction in student population, the ADM component. And it seemed to me about time that we should try to level out the budget a bit and make things fit together properly. The fact that some costs are up, fine. Well, Social Security is not going up this year, may not even go up next year either. So that's flattened out for a lot of people. Furthermore, in terms of costs and so forth for each of the individuals who are getting a benefit on this budget, their costs are down considerably. The reduction in petroleum costs and so on are substantial. And while the school district has not maybe realized the full value of it, at least for now, it will in the coming years. So there will be ways of saving money. And I think that the reduction in the budget now, as has already been pointed out, is most apropos. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Stoll from Sutton, and I too share our concerns over the tax rate as a Sutton resident. But I just wanted to point out that some of these proposed increases bear a face. On the bottom of page 1, buried in the other operating costs, it lists an athletic trainer in the last line. And that's a position here at the high school, which has been funded, as I understand it, sometimes through New London Hospital, sometimes through other sources, and right now there's no one to fund it. The person filling that position has the job of ensuring the safety of all of the athletes that are on these fields. Not just our own, but students from other schools that are coming here. So some of these costs are not fluff. They're very real costs that ensure the safety of our students, and those are the ones that should be kept in.
Thank you.
Okay. On that point, that's absolutely right. The New London Hospital had been funding, I think, not 100%, but half of our, 50% of our cost for the athletic trainer in past years. This last year, Concord Hospital took on that after New London decided not to fund that anymore. New London Hospital decided, and Concord Hospital is now dropping its funding as well. So going forward, that's, that additional 50% cost of the athletic trainer is something that we're going to have to take on as a district, unless we find something else. And if we find, and we always are looking for other partners to assist in things like that, and if we do, then that'll result in a budget savings. But we don't have that in place now, so our feeling is that the responsible thing to do is to put it into the budget as 100% cost to the district, because we don't have any alternative as we're looking at things.
Thank you.
So I just want to be clear on a couple of things and make a comment. If this passes here, it will show up as the third choice. It's conceivable that choice A, the municipal budget choice, could get 30% of the vote. Choice B, the school board choice, could get 30% of the vote. Choice C, if it's approved here, could get 40% of the vote. And even though 60% of the people vote for a number that is the same and larger, the number that gets 40% of the vote will be the approved budget. Is that correct?
I think that is correct.
I believe that's the way we've done it. I just want to confirm that, because I think it's relatively important to people in deciding their...
Well, we don't have any court decisions on that. I researched that question a couple of years ago. The object of the charter is to make sure that what the people want is what the people get. So I think there's certainly a good argument on both sides of that. The argument on one side being, look, if 60% of the voters voted for the same figure, even though they voted under two separate boxes, the 33% or whatever it would be, 40% that voted the other way, that's not the majority. On the other hand, you do have the literal language of the charter itself. So I can't tell you what a court would do with that. I can tell you what I would do with it, but I'm not a court, and so my opinion doesn't really matter.
So it's fair to say we would probably get sued, and there'd be at least additional costs there. But
it would go to lawyers, so that's okay.
Well, that's right. I forgot that. Well, that makes it all better then. With our contractual obligation, the comment I have, and I'm not 100% sure if I heard the number correctly, so I would. It's $40,070,000.
Correct.
So that's going to, with the contract obligations to the paraprofessionals, which I suspect that most are associated with special education's IEPs. I don't have that fact quick handy. That's something we would discuss in the meeting to confirm that, but I believe that's the case. We really have that as a contractual obligation through the IEPs. So that cost is going to be there. This is then around a $920,000 swing. Being at the NBC and debating $25,000 and $10,000 and $5,000, and should we cut this program? Should we do wrestling? It's going to cost an extra $10,000. What's the benefit for the students? Do these students participate in other sports? And fighting over a little bit of money each time, and the discussions that go into there, I can tell you, if this gets approved by the voters, it will be a sea change. Wholesale, radical changes in this district will have to be made to sort of put in a reasonable budget. And the school board mercifully will be doing that, not the MBC, because it'll be their job to resolve this. But there will have to be wholesale changes. $920,000 on this budget is a ton of money. The MBC and the school board have spent days, if you add up the meetings, looking at this. And, you know, they came to the conclusion they did. I understand and agree with why this motion is being made. The tax burden is difficult especially with a rising number of students from Sutton. But the reality is, if this does get approved, and it could get approved by 40%, I don't know how we would handle that. It's uncharted territory. It will be a sea change, and people need to be aware of that in sort of deciding how you vote.
Thank you. Mr. Bibbo?
I just want to say that in a school budget, there's about 85–90% of it is federal mandates, state mandates, contracted agreements, whether it's teachers, paraprofessionals, transportation, then your fuel costs, your utilities costs. You don't decide what they're going to be. They're decided for you, and you pay the bill, just like we do at home. All of us on the board, either board, we're all paying taxes too, and we're all facing the same problems that people in the audience are facing. And there is a lot of effort put into cutting the budget, to making sure that what is in the budget is spent properly. I've been on both sides of the administration on this, and as a taxpayer, and as much as I think the budget's really high, it's not because of local decisions. A lot of it is due to decisions federal and state. They mandate something and fund it for a while, then they run short of money and they cut your allotment back, and the mandate stays there. And that's just the way it is. I mean, you've got 10%, and that 10% or 15% makes up your costs for paper, whether it's to write on or wipe your hands on, or the discretionary costs for your sports program, your art programs, your music programs, your field trips, your extracurricular activities. That's only about 10% of your budget, and the rest of it is mandated or contracted. So there isn't a lot of leeway, as much leeway as I'd like to think there is with $40 million or $26 million local contribution. But the facts are, a lot of that's paying for mandated costs we have no control over as a budget committee or as a school board or as a superintendent of schools and principals. That's all.
Thank you. Did you? Okay. Yes, ma'am. You can be next.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Tara Evans, Sutton. You can probably hear me shaking. I spent my days talking to groups of people. They happen to be 7th graders here in the district. And I just want to let everybody know that as teachers, like, we are here, we hear you. I do, as I said, I live in town. My husband's lived in town literally his entire life. I grew up in the district. And I just want to let you know, we do hear you, and we are so cautious with all of your money. And we take it all into consideration. And $900,000, as they were saying up there, that's a huge game changer. I mean, that really is, that is people, and that is programs, and they were talking about sports and arts and all of these amazing things that our students do. I mean, I was at the activity night last night, and I'm listening to kids sing karaoke who are amazing singers. And our chorus program and all of these programs that are kind of extras and co-curriculars and our after-school jazz programs. And it's just amazing everything they get to do. And $900,000, that's huge amount of money for all of these kids. I know a lot of them are your kids or a lot of them are your grandkids. And anyway, I just wanted to kind of put the teacher aspect and say, we are here and we do hear you and we so try to be cautious with your money. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm Erin Paspahala. I'm from Wilmot, and I would like to thank all of you for the time that you've spent, not only this morning, but for many months and weeks prior to today. I have a few comments. One is that obviously raising taxes hurts all of us. Nobody right now is in a situation of profiting in a major way that they don't feel the increase. But I'd like to say that the school is obviously in the same situation. I noticed that one of the increases here is utilities, bonds, property insurance increases. That's what we're feeling at home. That's what the school is feeling too, and that's not controllable from what I understand. I think that it's probably obvious that this is not the number here that you're proposing that is your dream number. As a school board, you probably had it way higher than that, and this represents a lot of conversations, a lot of hard decisions, a lot of other cuts here that I see, like you guys have cuts in paraeducators, and there's bringing students back into district, there are a lot of numbers that went down. And so my concern about putting a line item on a ballot for people who did not spend the time to come here this morning and did not look at this budget together is that any one of us is going to look at the lower number in the ballot and go, I vote for that one, right? And then people who know what's going on are going to have to make the hard decisions of hurting programs and hurting employees because the decision was made by someone who hadn't already done all that work. So for me, I believe that the number that you are proposing here is the best number, taking into consideration your own taxes, our own taxes, and the future of our schools. And I'd like to echo what Heidi said. I think we do have a problem with revenue in this state, and a lot of it needs to be addressed back to the state. That the property taxes wouldn't maybe keep going up if we had another source of revenue that didn't just depend on that, and our towns got some money from the level of the state instead of only just derived from our own area. Thank you.
Thank you. Can be next.
Hi, I wanted to address a comment that was made earlier about the number of students that we have in the district, and indeed it has gone down in the last few years. And that I think the comment was, this is the time to make the change. Well, I think the reality is that if the number of students had remained the same, I venture to say that the 2.06% increase that we see now would probably be a lot larger. So we are trying to make an effort to reduce the budget. It has helped that the number of students is lower, and we can't push it any further down. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Sir?
Early Strout from Sutton. We can debate this until the cows come home. We're going nowhere. All we're going to put is a number on the ballot that will be voted on. So we're making a big deal we can say what we want. There's a few people here that might be on Social Security, they might be over 65. The federal government said there's no increase. There's nothing going up, it's all flat. This is the year that we have got to change the federal and the state government and get them off our back. I know all of you people. We went up in our assessment of our property, took a huge jump. There was no increase. The government tells us, fine, you folks have got money. Where's it coming from? My company that I retired from gave me a pension. I'm grateful for that. It never went up. It's flat. It's been flat ever since I retired. I could tell you what my annual income is, and even I wonder, how am I still paying my bills? I had a few CDs. My bank tells me, oh, you got money in the bank. We're going to give you some interest on it. Try to figure out what 0.03% is in dollars on how many thousand you'd have to be to get a buck. I don't want to tie this thing up forever, but I say, let's just cut the debate. Let's put a number on the ballot. It's the rest of the people that aren't here that are going to vote yes, no, middle, high, or low. Let's go for it and put a number on the ballot.
Thank you. Did you want to speak?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's someone else with this.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
We have an obligation, I think, also, though, to make sure that the voters in March.
Who's talking?
I think we have an obligation
Oh, I'm
also,
sorry.
though, Ken Bartholomew. We have an obligation to the voters in March to give them informed choices. And that's the problem that I have with a different number that comes from a lack of understanding of the whole budget process and is driven what seems to be by only a goal to keep things as low as possible. When the Municipal Budget Committee comes back to us and says you need to cut X dollars, $500,000 was, again, my first meeting. They did that after looking at the budget, discussing it for many weeks, asking questions, getting answers, and making a decision based on their evaluation and review of the budget. And that is, I think, a reasonable, informed decision that the voters in March can decide on. It's not so clear to me that the amendment today is based on that same kind of study and diligent review of the budget. I've been to all the NBC meetings, but I haven't seen that many folks there at the ones that are here. Again, if you take a look at page 2 of your handout, you'll see what the biggest increase is in this budget. It's health benefits. $449,260 increase in health benefits. We're going to talk in a minute when we get to Article 2 about what the school board is trying to do and the district and the Municipal Budget Committee to reduce that number. And that's one of the main reasons for presenting a new contract to the voters in March. But that's a number that we don't have control over, the health benefits costs. The people who have to pay, the taxpayers that have to, a lot of us have seen increases in either out-of-pocket costs for health insurance over the last few years or a large increase in premiums. We're in the same boat. Our health increase costs go up. They go up every year. And because one of our because our largest budget item is our employees, that benefit goes up with it. So, you have to actually take a look at the numbers and say, where's that cost coming from? Where's that increase coming from? It's coming from an increase in health insurance costs, primarily this year. And that is, where the money is going to go. And that's something that we're given a number in November by the health insurance company, and that's our increase. There are ways to change that, and that's what we're going to talk about in the next article.
All right. I heard the call, the question, motion. I recognized someone in the back first, and then I'm going to have a vote on ending debate.
Good day. My name is Judy Shank. I'm from Springfield, and I am a para-educator here at the high school. One of the things, there are faces on this, and the gentleman who made the amendment, I'd like you to tell us where the cuts are supposed to come from. We have para-educators who are using the health system. I'm not one of them. I'm fortunate that my husband's a retiree and his insurance is covering both of us. However, we have paras who are using the health situation, and when we get to the Christmas recess where we don't get paid because we're not working, we have paras who owe the school district money because the cost of their health insurance is more than their weekly paycheck. So when and none of us object to not getting paid, all right? We're here for the students. We work for the students. And so when we're with the students, we get paid. But when we're not here with the students, we don't. But yet our health insurance still has to be paid. So you're going to cut it, and we have our increase because of a contract, but they're getting hit with the increase in the health care as well. And it's not fair. And where are you going to cut? Are you going to cut the sports program so the football players are paying for it, or the soccer players, or the girls field hockey, or the baseball players, the softball players? Because if you cut, that's what's going to happen. Your private individual parents are going to be paying for all of the sports things, and there will be students who can't participate in that. Please look at the budget, and I will say this, I can only talk for the high school. You have some of the most phenomenal teachers in the entire state in this high school. The things that I watch them do to keep your students interested and participating and learning is phenomenal. And we need to have everything that this school budget, this school committee, these people in the DING have worked so hard to put together for us, because we need it. Our students need it. They are the future of this country. And without a good budget, we're really going to be in trouble.
All right. Thank you. A moment ago, someone said to call the question, and what that means in Robert's rules speak is a motion to close debate. In other words, if the motion to close debate passes, then we stop talking about the amended article. And what is it? There are exceptions. Points of order are exceptions.
The question is whether you allow somebody to yell from the audience as opposed to raising their hand. The question is, did you scan the audience carefully to make sure that someone didn't have their hand up before you took that yell from the audience? Because I have to say that you need to have a priority here, or a protocol of how you're going to accept someone to come forward and speak to the audience and the board here.
Well, I understand your concern. I am choosing to accept the motion to close debate.
As a yell from the audience. Okay, just want that to be on the record, a yell from the audience. Thank you.
I'm going to go to the Sutton Town meeting this year, Charlie. And I hope you don't, well, you probably wouldn't move to close debate, would you? So, all right. So, motion to close debate is, I'm going to try to do it on a voice vote. It requires a 2/3 majority, so if there is much doubt in my mind, we'll have to use at least a show of hands ballot. But usually by the time somebody calls the question, 90% of the audience wishes they had done so themselves, but not to prejudice you. So again, the motion to close debate or calling the question, I'll do it on a voice vote if at all possible, and it requires a 2/3 vote. The motion itself is not debatable, so I don't, unless it's a point of order, I wouldn't ask for any comments about it. So is everyone clear on the question, namely whether or not we stop discussion of the amended article, proposed amended article? I'll take your silence as affirmative. All right, all those in favor of closing debate on the proposed amendment to Article 1, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. No. I think I've been wrong a number of times based on the volume of people, so I'm going to ask for a show of hands. That may be good enough for me to see it, although my vision is declining from 20/20 to 60/60 as I look at these lights. So I'm going to do the best I can. All those in favor of closing debate, I'm going to ask in a moment that you hold up your ballot packet, which has a greenish tint, says Kearsarge Regional District Registered Voter. So I'm going to ask those who are in favor of closing debate to hold that up, and I will try to make a count.
We count.
I would say that's. I'm abstaining.
Okay. All right, thank you, and put your hands down. All those opposed to closing debate, please raise your hands with your ballots in. Okay, I see a clear two-thirds majority in favor of closing debate, so we will now proceed to voting on the proposal that Mr. Hall made. Paul. Oh, Paul, I'm sorry, I understood it to be Hall, and I hate to prolong things, but I think it's only fair that you hear again what you're voting on. And it is Article 1, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate $40,070,678 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for the school district officials and agents, and for the payment for the statutory obligations of the district. The Municipal Budget Committee and School Board recommends $40,896,61. This article does not include appropriations voted in other warrant articles. This warrant article asks the voters to raise and appropriate for the support of schools, salaries of school district officials and agents, and for the statutory obligations of said district, and to authorize the application against said appropriation of such sums as are estimated to be received from the state sources. Together with other income, the school board to certify to the selectmen of each of the towns of Bradford, New London, Newbury, Springfield, Sutton, Warner, and Wilmot, the amount to be raised by taxation by said towns. So that is what we're voting on. Basically, again, whether or not to put that article as a third choice on the school district ballot on March 8th. Is everyone clear on the question? Okay, all those in favor of, sir. That request has to be made in writing, and there have to be 5 people that want to do that. Again, I don't want to prejudice people, but that will add substantially to the amount of time that we take dealing with this. So I assume that you'll give me a request in writing for a paper ballot. That's what you wanted, right? A paper ballot? Okay. Are there 4 other people who are going to ask for a paper ballot? That's 2. Okay. All right. That's what we'll do. All right, I have one. And what we are voting on is whether or not to place on the ballot in March an additional option. And that's the option that Mr. Paul proposed 2 or 3 hours ago. And it is the one that I read a few moments ago. And just to reiterate what I said at the beginning, the Article 1 that appears on your warrant is going to appear in March regardless of what we do. So what you're voting on now basically is whether or not to add another choice, namely this budget that is reduced by $820-some thousand. Okay, the poll is now open. Supervisors don't need to worry about this. I'm going to monitor the ballot box myself.
I don't know if secret ballot where the judge.
Pull the chair out of the way so you have room.
Down the hallway around the high school.
We are now ready to resume the meeting. So if everybody that wants to take their seats. Article 2, to see if the school district will vote to approve the cost item included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Kearsarge Regional School Board and the Kearsarge Regional Educators Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits. 2016-17, $393,297. 2017-18, $440,278. 2018 to 2019, $449,957, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $393,297 for the 2016-17 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. And I believe I'm correct in saying that that money is not included in the Article 1 budget number, nor is it included in the Article 1. If that amended article passes, it would not be included in that either. So this is in addition to the number on the warrant. All right, is there someone from the board or MBC? You, all right.
It's me. So this article was recommended by the school board 8-0 and by the Municipal Budget Committee 5-4. The school board and the Kearsarge Regional Educators Association, which is the union for the teachers, have reached an agreement on a 3-year contract from 2016 to 2019. The proposed agreement builds on accomplishments of the current contract, such as an established teacher evaluation system and model, performance and merit component added to compensation, as well as linkage of merit pay to student performance. It is a return to the step and track system for base salary determination, which ensures comparability with other school districts in terms of hiring and retaining staff. Eligibility for step increases and merit pay are only available on this proposed contract for teachers whose evaluations are in the top 2 of our 4 performance levels. There will be a health premium cost savings to the district. Teachers will be moving from the current traditional health plan to a consumer-driven deductible health plan. The savings in the first year alone will be approximately $94,156. By moving to a different health plan starting in 16-17, the district also expects to avoid future potential health costs approximating $211,512. So essentially, if this Article 2, the contract passes, the budget number in Article 1 will immediately go down $95,156 because that would be the premium cost savings. So when I mentioned to you that health increase in the budget was a large item, $441,000, the largest increase by far, that will be reduced by $94,156 if this contract passes and we move the teachers to a consumer-driven health plan. Under the contract, the teacher's contribution of premium would be reduced from either 15 or 20% now, depending on the plan they're on, I answered that question earlier, to 5% for all 3 years. Even with the district paying 95% of the premium, though, there's still a cost savings to the district, again, of $94,000 in the first year, $211,512 in the other years. There would also be the ability for the district to avoid the Cadillac tax, but that has been extended now. its implementation, so it doesn't apply during this budget cycle, but assuming that we continue on the consumer-driven health plan, this plan, we don't believe would be subject to the Cadillac tax under the Affordable Health Care Act. So we felt that it was very important to focus heavily on how we could bend the curve with regard to the healthcare premiums, and this is the way we were able to come up with a solution that reduced, that minimized the increases or reduced the increases in our healthcare expenses going forward.
All right, Mr. Hand.
Thank you. I thought it would be appropriate to explain to people how the NBC viewed the contract once it was revealed to us how it was going to, what had happened. Noting, of course, that the school board recommended it 8 to zip, and we obviously were less than confident that this was a good deal. It had to be explained to us, and because if the first night when we looked at it or was explained to us, it would have been defeated quite easily. So they gave us a copy of it, and we took it home and read it, and it became more or less, at least I think, obvious to me anyway, that what we were trying to do here was reduce health care, which has been a killer for years, and to the board's credit and the management who were involved in negotiating this contract, they did a good job there. What we felt, though, because when it was explained to us back in 2013, or 2012, excuse me, how this was going to work, we believed that by the time the next contract came up, meaning this one, we would, we'd all be working on merit pay for all the teachers, and it would be, a great thing. And when we realized that that wasn't going to happen, that the only 2 of the 3 steps, for instance, had been eliminated, but it is a negotiation, and apparently the teachers didn't want to, completely leave a safety net of a union-backed contract. So they held on to one of them, which is called the step track step. So anyway, I was, like several other fellows here on my left, were a little upset that we'd, not been, we'd been misled on what was going on 3 years before. However, after when we finally discussed it and then decided to take a vote, we were at 4-4, and I was a deciding vote. I thought to myself, I've never seen anybody ever try to do this with a union contract, which is go merit pay only. If you vote it down, what's going to happen is the teachers will never get near this again. And our whole idea back 3 years ago, anyway, at least I thought it was to get them off the union-based step plan and get into merit pay in large class sizes for the teachers that were so good and all of that. Well, I said it probably still is. Unfortunately, it's going to take at least 6 years now rather than 3. But at the same time, I said to myself, well, you can vote no on this, and it'll look like the NBC voted it down. Or you can go along with it and see if they can actually make it work. And if you vote no, you're never going to know if it works or not. So I threw a deciding vote for the NBC in this direction to support the contract. It does have the financial benefits that Ken has already pointed out, and that's important. And it also gets us into a consumer-based driven healthcare, hopefully, that is going to continue to save us money. If it doesn't work, and trust me, this thing may never pass the public view in March. It may lose, I don't know. But anyway, I thought it necessary to at least move us in this direction this time, and hopefully we can get to where we thought we were going to get come the next time they do a negotiation, which would be in 2018. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to remind everyone that this Article 2 that I read is going to appear on the ballot in March. We are not going to vote it up or down today. I was trying to imagine what an amendment to this might look like, and I haven't come up with one, but perhaps there's someone more creative out there. But I just want to make it clear, again, because this stuff is pretty confusing. Article 2, as I read, will appear on the March 8th ballot.
They're not allowed to amend it under the charter.
They couldn't even...
Can't even change the figures, no. The charter says it can't be amended. It can only be discussed.
That being, what, a collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah, because it's a collective bargaining agreement. So
All right.
just make sure you understand.
I'm advised by wise counsel that there is no way even to amend this Article 2. You can't change the number and put a different article on it. So this will be an opportunity for discussion, questions, and so forth, but not even a proposed alternative choice on the ballot. Mr. Paul.
I'm not here to make amendment.
That's good.
I do have a question. Could you tell us what the percent increase in salary this agreement would be? For example, the 393,000, is that a 2%, 3%, 4%?
That's a very difficult question because it depends on what step level the folks, the employees are on as to what their increase would be.
Well, tell us on average what it would be.
So we have of the 200 teachers that would be on the contract going from this year to next year. In the first year, there would be a less than 3% increase for 87 of them, increase between 3 and 4% for 92 of them, and for 21 of them, there'd be a greater than 4% increase.
Mr. Forsberg.
Yeah, and that includes nurses in addition to teachers.
Could you give us a number on the average or the median of salaries now paid to all the staff, plus the high numbers that might be paid and the low number? The low number, I assume, would be on the order of, let's say, an entry-level teacher.
Yeah, just a second.
So we're talking basically three numbers, which averages out, and the high and low spread here. Also, I'd like to have a little clarification, if possible, how teachers would move in the first 5 years. Very directional mic, isn't it? I don't normally listen to myself, but anyways, go ahead.
I'll answer your first question. I didn't understand that last question you had, but in the proposed contract, the first year for a BA, Bachelor of Arts teacher, the lowest salary would be $38,519 base.
Okay.
In addition to that, there's an opportunity for a merit pay bonus based on the performance of the school that the teacher would be in of either $500 or $800. The highest amount, which would be for CAGS or doctoral degree, who's off step and has gone through all 16 steps, would be $76,178, with the same opportunity for the $500 or $800 merit pay bonus.
Okay.
Okay. And then, over the 2 years of the contract, the $38,519 increases to $38,905, and then $39,411, and the highest amount, $76,178. Goes to $77,131 and $78,134.
Is this information available on the website?
Yeah, we have the contract available on the website.
Okay.
And on Appendix A are the step schedules.
Okay, now I move to something more of a legal question. And that is, suppose if district voters turn down this contract, does that mean that the school board is locked into not providing the increase, because really the authority is with the school board alone as to whether they implement a contract with the teachers?
Can you say that one more time?
Yes, I'll rephrase it. The school board is the sole authority as far as any contract is concerned with its staff. Is that correct? You're the sole authority on that. You decide and whatever. If the voters should turn down the amount of money involved in this particular article, what part of that contract may still be implemented, and can the money still be implemented by the school board on its own? And I'm looking at the 2.5% cap and so forth that
No.
that
The
you have,
answer-
you have the money to do it. I'm sure that's going to happen.
The answer is no. If the contract is voted down, we don't implement any of the contract.
Okay, not well.
The current contract, to the extent that it calls for being implemented after the term expires, would continue. So the current contract with the teachers would continue.
Well, there is a certain legal opportunity. Barbara has wanted to step in here.
Can I just very quickly? Yeah, what happens is the salaries are frozen. People do not get steps. You continue implementing. In other words, everybody would continue to be paid what they're paid this year. The only changes that would be allowed would be track changes. If you have a teacher that moves from the bachelor's track to the master's track, the teacher would be paid on the master's track. But in terms of step increases, they don't get any. The other thing that would happen is that if the new contract has health insurance savings, you would be bound to continue with the old contract health insurance plan.
That's why the number in the budget, Article 1, includes the full amount of the health care program, assuming that this Article 2 does not pass. So we're obligated to abide by the health provisions in the contract that exists now next year.
Okay, suppose you made a contract arrangement with the staff, and for some reason beyond our understanding, you decided there wouldn't have to be a cost increase. In other words, it'd be level funded, or the money would come from other sources. In other words, there'd be no money for this group to vote on, for the voters to vote on in March. How would that affect your implementation of a contract with the staff? Do you follow my thinking on that?
The
In
contract.
other words, you make up the contract and you decide the issue, not us.
No, the contract is Article 2. It is up before the voters in March, and it'll be either voted to approve it or not approve it. And if it's not approved, then we'll go with what Barbara just explained would happen with the current situation, and that's that. We cannot enter into a separate contract without, this has to come before the voters.
So this article could appear before the voters even though there was no cost increase.
No.
The way it works is that the school board is bound by the contracts that have been approved by the district meeting. So if there were no change in the contract at all, they wouldn't have to bring a cost item to you, but they would be obligated to continue operating under the old contract. The old contract stays in effect until the new one is approved.
The money to implement this proposed contract is in Article 2, not in Article 1.
Understood.
Okay, next year, if the contract is approved this year, then the amount that you see in the box here under Article 2, 2017-18 of 440,278 will be put in the budget as part of Article 1. Okay, so, but currently, we don't have a new contract. That's what's in front of the voters in March. So this amount is separate and apart from Article 1.
I read the first sentence here. It says to see if the school district will vote to approve the cost item. We're only approving the cost item. We're not approving any of the measures or the features and so forth that are in the contract itself. That's up to you guys. That has nothing to do with us. We're only approving the cost item. If we don't, and if there was no cost, does that mean you could not have a contract with the teachers modified and changed as you see fit without the cost item? That's the issue. And I guess the answer is you can do as you want in that regard. It's just the money that we're dealing with.
You can make language changes, but any changes to the money, even if it's down, are cost items that get approved by the voters. So in other words, let's say you came up with the teachers and the school board came up with a new contract that didn't result in any additional costs because of savings on health insurance by changing to a new plan. That still would go to the voters. The school board and the union can agree on language changes, but they can't make any financial changes. They can't make any cost item changes without the approval of the voters. And until the voters approve a new contract, they're bound by the old one.
But it's strictly the cost.
In terms
that
of the
we're dealing
cost
with.
items.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Wright.
Bob Wright, town of Sutton. My question is, when we're talking about the $211 in insurance savings costs or projected cost, where we're going not this year, not even next year, but the following year, how can we arrive at those figures? Because even if we project, we know that the health cost guarantee. So I wonder if you kind of flesh that out a little bit.
Right. That's a good question. We've built into our model an average rate increase of 6.5% and then 8% for 2 years. Is that right? Yeah. So those numbers are estimates. They're based on the current situation of how many employees we have that are utilizing the health insurance system or the health insurance plan, and they include an estimated cost increase of 6.5% for the first year, 8% for the second year, and 8% for the third year. So that's in our cost model. So if those assumptions remain correct, and their budgeting is all based on assumptions, the premium cost savings in the first year of the contract is we think it will be $94,156, and then for the next 2 years, total $211,512.
And incidentally, the same holds true for the estimated increase. If in year 2 and 3, higher earning, older teachers retire and we can hire younger, lower step teachers, then that estimate is also what it is, an estimate. So it goes in both directions.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Sir.
I don't know if that 5% contribution on the part of teachers and staff is locked in, but I would suggest to you that the contribution should be higher, and it should be done on a sliding scale. Those who earn the highest amount of money should pay a greater amount, perhaps up to 50%, because the age of gifts is over.
So the 5% is in the contract for all 3 years. We don't have a sliding scale. We did not put that in there. Our goal was to get the teachers and the district to agree to move to the consumer-driven health plan. And I will say that I don't believe we could have gotten that agreement had we not been willing to compromise on the amount of premium that the district contributes. Keep in mind that even with an increase in the amount that the district contributes, the district still saves a substantial amount in benefits, or in premiums.
That's right.
It's a plan with a deductible.
Nobody would have heard the question except you and me.
Sorry. So the question was, what is a consumer-driven health plan? What does that mean? It's a plan where the beneficiaries have a role in determining how much the total cost is. So there's a deductible. The deductible on the plan is a $4,000 deductible. It can be reduced to $2,000 if the members are willing to engage in a health survey for the company, which is School Care, which is a Cigna product. There are some other, they pay, their money doesn't come out of the deductible in some cases if they choose lower cost options, for example. There's incentives to engage in various choices in terms of healthcare that are lower cost, like going to an ambulatory surgical center instead of to the hospital, going to urgent care instead of the ER, et cetera. So that's based on all that, it's called a consumer-driven health plan by the insurance company, demonstrating or trying to send the message that the beneficiaries or the members have some impact by their choices as to the total, some control in terms of the total cost of the healthcare amount that's being spent for them. And that's how they're able to offer a lower premium amount.
Any more questions, discussion? All right, hearing none, I will move on to Article 3. But before I do that, I'm going to announce the results of the voting on the proposed amended article. I'm not going to reveal where the solitary gray ballot landed, because that's a matter of voter moderator privilege. The votes opposed to the motion were 79, and the votes in favor of it were 36. So it does not carry, and that proposal will not appear on the ballot in March. So that's where that is. Move on now to the Article 3, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to $25,000 to be placed in the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund established in 2008 within the provisions of RSA 198-20C for the purpose of emergency funding of unforeseen special education costs incurred by the district, with such amount to be funded from unassigned fund balance, that is to say surplus funds remaining on hand as of June 30, 2016. Recommended by the board and by the school board and the municipal budget committee unanimously. Who is going to, yes, sir.
So in 2008, the voters established an expendable trust fund for the purpose of providing funds for unforeseen emergency circumstances in special education that may arise in a fiscal year after the budget has been adopted. If approved, this article will add up to $25,000 to that fund from operating surplus remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2016. The balance of the fund as of November 2015 is approximately $279,079. The target amount to be raised is $372,139.
Any questions? Further discussion? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Just to add to what Carter said there, we have been routinely funding this article and also Article 4 to keep these balances up in these two fairly critical, should anything go wrong, trust funds. But we have been taking them out for the last couple of years out of the leftover change we've got at the end of the year. And we won't do it unless that change is there. Now, historically, it has been there, so we feel fairly confident that these can roll through without new charges and, other things in the budget coming up. So this is a kind of a protected warrant article that won't inhibit your tax bill. I just want to let everyone know that in case, you didn't.
Thank you. Any additional comments on this article? Mr. Forsberg.
I'll combine my question to both Article 3 and 4. They're probably easy to answer, and that is, what amount of monies have been withdrawn from these funds this past year, or 2 years, whatever, or proposed to be withdrawn to support the purpose of the article, if any?
The answer is none.
None in the last year, none.
Anything else? Sir.
Paul, Jim, I didn't understand what you just said about the $25,000. You said it would not come from tax.
Where it comes from is from leftover money at the end of the fiscal year. Okay, that's where and unless that money's there, this article will not be implemented.
But just to be perfectly clear, if at the end of this fiscal year, if there's budget savings left over, this would be funded out of that. But it should be noted that if there's budget savings left over, that money gets credited to the towns for their next tax bill. So it goes back to the taxpayers. So this is money that wouldn't go back to the taxpayers.
Oh, so they wouldn't go back. I
Correct.
understand. Is that also the case on Article 4?
Correct.
I know we're going to get, okay. My question then is, what's the basis for your target amount of $372,139, and why is that so exact?
Those are recommendations made by the Finance and Audit Committee that look at all our trust funds and try to set a target amount based on estimates for cost. So for example, there's a roof trust fund. We're looking now at the estimated costs of doing re-roofing work and whether that fund needs to be modified or changed. The non-round numbers occurs because of interest on the trust funds, that changes it to non-round numbers. So I'm not sure why the target amount is not an exact number, but it's probably based on a percentage. It started as a round number, I think is what we were saying.
I think that would also go for Article 4 as well.
Yeah.
Any further questions, comments? All right, we can move on to Article 4, which reads as follows: to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to $50,000 to be placed in the school buildings maintenance fund for the purpose of repair, unanticipated utility costs, and maintaining the school buildings and equipment, with such amount to be funded from unassigned fund balance surplus funds remaining on hand as of June 30, 2016. Mr. Bernard.
In 2009, the voters established an expendable trust fund for the purpose of repairs, unanticipated utility costs, and maintaining school buildings and equipment. If approved, this article, as previously mentioned, will set aside up to $50,000 towards that purpose from surplus funds remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2016. The balance of that expendable trust is currently $351,450, and the target amount to be raised is $500,236. To reaffirm what's been stated, there has been no funds removed from this in the preceding year. However, we have identified through the Facilities Committee and the Facilities Director a number of projects that are in the capital reserve funds that we may actually have to address in terms of roofing, which was previously mentioned, which is occurring at some buildings, and we've also experienced some issues with 40-year-old wastewater treatment and other facilities. So there's a possibility that this may be dipped into in the coming year.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right. That concludes the planned business for the meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Actually, we have recognitions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes. Not quite, Brackett.
Take the spot here. It's very brief today. I wanted to just take a moment to recognize a few individuals who've given so much time and effort to our district. First of all, Dr. Kevin Johnson on the school board. Kevin, as many of you probably know, was an elementary school principal in our district for 18 years, having retired in 2012. For the past 3 years, Kevin has served diligently on our school board, sharing his wealth of knowledge and experience in the field of education. Kevin, Dr. Johnson, thank you very, very much for your service. And Pam Stiles. Pam has been our assistant superintendent for the past 2 years. I'm very sorry to say for us, but not sorry to say for her, that she has accepted a position of superintendent of schools in the Alton School District and will be leaving us in June. Pam's hard work, diplomacy, tireless efforts, and dedication have truly made a difference in the Kearsarge district. Pam, please know that you will be greatly missed. We wish you the very best and thank you for your innumerable contributions and for providing us a steady, continual level of service during this year of great transition. We do have a bunch of long-term retirees in the district, but they've asked not to be announced today. So thank you from the district and the administration and the board to them as well, but they shall remain anonymous. Unless you want to look at the meeting minutes, and then you'll see who they are.
All right, how about now? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you very much. See you next year.